Hi everyone, it's Suzanne with iCrafter, and today we are going to be making a Valentine's make. With Valentine's Day right around the corner, I thought it would be a perfect time to pull out a past die as well as a stamp set to create a really fun shaker Valentine's card. So let me share with you what I'm using today. We are going to be working with the Heart Maze die set, and there are 4 dies to this collection. And I also pulled out the Amaze Me stamp set. We're going to use one of the sentiments on the card. So here is the card that we are going to be making today. It is full of texture, full of layers. I love the background that we're going to create. It's very subtle. It's so easy to make too, but it makes a really big impact. And of course, I love shaker cards. I love filling it in with just lots of pretty sequins and just some chunky glitter as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. My color palette here. So we are working with a A2 size card, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I am using some media paper that I'm gonna do a little bit of work with some distress ink to create a really pretty background for the front of our card. Some pink cardstock, some teal cardstock. We will need a transparency to create our shaker card. And then I did cut 3 strips in 1/2 inch lengths. We will use these for the front of our card. So let's go ahead and start with the first step. So the first thing that we're gonna do is create our background. So I am using a couple of distress inks. I'm using Spun Sugar. I think that's perhaps my favorite color. And then we're also using the Pickled Raspberry to create our background. So for the front of the card, I am using the mixed media paper. So let's go ahead, and you're gonna need a plastic bag, and I just use a sandwich bag and I just cut the front of it. So we're gonna need that because we're gonna go ahead and use this to adhere to place our ink on top of. Let me just grab my little craft mat here. And I'm also gonna grab a paper towel as well. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm just going to simply apply the ink directly onto this plastic bag. Let's go ahead and add this color here and here as well. Now I'm just going to mist it with water just to kind of let those colors kind of blend together. I'm gonna grab my front of my card, and I'm just going to turn it face down and just kind of move those colors all along the top of our mixed media cardstock here. Okay, and then now we can go ahead and remove it. I like to use a paper towel just to kind of pick up some of that excess. And the wonderful thing about this technique that I like is that you can go back and clean off your plastic bag that we used as our canvas. Go ahead and just wipe it off, and then just apply the colors again and repeat the process just until you get the background that you like. Now, I really love the softness of this background, so I think this is good. I'm gonna go ahead and just go ahead and dry it with the heat embossing gun, and then we'll begin on the next step. Okay, my background is dry, so now I'm gonna go ahead and adhere it to the front of my card base. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and adhere these strips. I have 3 of them here. I'm gonna go ahead and start with the hot pink along the bottom. Next, I'm gonna go ahead and add this text paper. I really love this paper here. I think it breaks the colors up just a little bit. Okay, and finally, let's go ahead and add this last one here. Okay, and now I'm gonna go ahead and just cut off the excess. Okay, so this is what we have so far. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring out our dies. So here's the heart. I'm gonna go ahead and cut a heart from the front of our card. Now, normally I like to design with things in the center, but I think for something different, I'm gonna go ahead and just turn it slightly and die cut it about there. So I'm gonna open up my card and use some Post-it tape to adhere this down and just run it through my die cutting machine. So here's what the card looks like. And I know we cut out a lot of what we applied to the front of our card, but that's okay. We do have this fallout heart that's gonna be perfect to use as a tag on a gift bag, use it as an element onto a scrapbook page, or even a mini album. You have a already made embellishment just by doing this technique here. Okay, so let's go ahead to move on to the next. Okay, so next we're going to be die cutting from these two dies here. So for this big heart, I need to die cut it from a transparency as well as a pink cardstock. And then with the heart maze, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it 3 times from this teal cardstock. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this through the die cutting machine and I will be right back. Okay, I have die cut my pieces and I did wanna show you what this looks like. When you just pull it apart, you get that heart maze. And so we'll be working with this part here. And I did want to mention that to get this fallout here, you will be using both of these dies together. They get nestled in just like this. And then I just use a little bit of Post-it tape on the ends and just run it through the die cutting machine. And then you'll be able to have this die cut here, just like that. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start beginning some of the assembly of our card. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this pink cardstock, add some adhesive to the back. This will be our bottom layer. And I'm just going to fold over the top and just use this as a guide, and this will help me in placing my heart. And then I can open it up and make sure it's nicely adhered. And this is what we have so far. Okay, so now we have these 3 heart maze die cuts. So we're just going to add adhesive to the back of them and then stack them right on top of one another. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And it's best to use a liquid adhesive. And we're gonna match it up to our first layer. Just wanted to wipe some of that adhesive off my fingers. And then now I'm just going to work around it, lining it up as best I can. And then I'll be able to know if I'm missing any adhesive. Like right there, I could use a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and add adhesive to this die cut and stack it right on top. So this is what we have so far. And now we're gonna grab our heart transparency and we're going to adhere this heart maze die cut right on top using liquid adhesive. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And I'm just really careful when I'm applying adhesive to an intricate die cut such as this, especially when it's going on top of a transparency, because I know that if I get a little bit too much adhesive, it seeps through and it's really hard to clean off the transparency. Okay, and it's gonna go right on top, just like that. Okay, and I'm gonna give this a chance to dry and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so we're now creating our shaker card that's going to sit right inside there. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab some double-sided foam tape to adhere to the back of our heart maze. Okay, so for this, I'm going to cut right along there, and I'm going to just adhere it down to this mat here. Now, we are working again with this intricate die, so I need my strips of foam to be pretty narrow in order to ensure that they are not peeking through the front of our shaker card. So I'm going to use a metal ruler, and I'm going to use an X-Acto knife and just cut right along there, just like that. And I'm just going to pick it up, and then I can grab my transparency and begin forming it around the heart. And just turning it over to make sure I'm not seeing any of that foam. And once you remove the top layer of the foam tape, it makes it easy to maneuver. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut another strip. Okay, just like that. So now we're ready to add some elements to create our shaker card. Okay, so here I have just an assortment of sequins that I have, and I am just going to add some right to the center of my card. And I like these because they have a little opening and I can just shake a few out. And I want to add, I don't think I'm going to add, let's see, let's add this color first, because I really don't have any red on this card, but I may just add a few because after all, it is Valentine's Day, so I might just add a few. Okay, a few little white sequins. Let's go ahead and just add a few, just to give some color. That looks good. And I'm just gonna push this over, kind of scoop all this inside. And I'm not using a lot. I just want just a subtle touch of the sequins, because really the star of the show is this maze die cut. I really want this to stand out. So this will just give it a little bit of sparkle. So now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and just lift this up as carefully as I can and go ahead and just match up the transparency heart to the pink and go ahead and just adhere it down on all of the edges. Okay. And now I'm going to shake it to see all the movement, and there we've created our shaker card. Now, to hide that little spot, I'm going to use some smaller heart die cuts just to add some embellishing to the front of our card. I die cut 2 small hearts to use as embellishments onto the front of my card. Now, these 2 hearts are fallouts from a die set, and it is called the Exploding Shaker Box. Obviously, there are many dies here, and it makes for an amazing, fun exploding box. But I just use this die here and use the fallout with a heart. I love mixing and matching my dies, even something as simple and subtle as this heart. So I die cut 2, and now we can go ahead and begin finishing our card here. So I'm going to add this pink heart just to hide that little bit of adhesive on our shaker card, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this other heart right here in the corner. So here's what we have so far. And now I'm gonna add just a little bit of stamping, and I want to embellish the middle of the heart maze and add a bow, and then we'll be finished. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab the stamp set. Let's see, I love this. I'm lost without you. I love that. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and use this one here that says, "You amaze me." Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open up my card, and I'm gonna go ahead and stamp it right along this bottom. Just like that. The next thing I wanna do, I'm gonna go ahead and die cut this portion of this die, just right along this heart here. I'm gonna go ahead and die cut it out of this hot pink cardstock and add it to the center of our heart maze. I'll grab my liquid adhesive. And match it up to that center heart. I did die cut the little keyhole heart, and I'm going to use it to finish off the center of my shaker card. So for this, I am going to use a Versamark watermark pen for this step. And I'm also going to use some gold embossing powder. So what I'm going to do is just go over the entire die cut with this pen here. It's acting as our Versamark here. Make sure I have it nicely covered. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just grab my embossing powder and just sprinkle it all over the top. I'm gonna go in and shake off the excess. And this is what we have. Now I'm gonna go ahead and heat emboss this with the heat embossing gun. And because this item is very small, I'm simply going to use this pick to hold it down while I apply the heat to it to set it. I'll be right back. So here is a look at our heart. Look at how beautiful that came out. I really love using this simple technique, especially on smaller items. Now I did add some foam adhesive to the back of it, and I'm going to use it to finish off the center of our shaker card. Okay, we are almost done. Let's just add some ribbon. Okay, I'm just using some white ribbon here, and I'm gonna tie it right on the edge, but instead of tying it into a bow, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I want to just gather it just like that, and I'm gonna tie it off with some twine. There we go. And then let's go ahead and just tie it into a knot. And then finish off with a bow. And let's go ahead and cut off the ends. And cut this into an angle. I think I'm gonna go this way. Let's see, just like that. So here's our finished shaker card. I love the subtle background of the inks on the front of the card. I love the big impact of this heart maze die, and just a few details just to finish off our card. It makes for a very fun and interactive card, perfect for someone this Valentine's Day. Now, you're not gonna be able to put this in a standard size envelope because of the ribbon. You could possibly tuck it underneath, but that's okay. We can use a bigger envelope. I think this makes for something different, adds just a little bit of uniqueness to the card. I really had fun making this card, and I can't wait to give it to somebody this Valentine's Day. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope that you have a wonderful Valentine's Day.